Hey everybody, this is Meeples on the Ground, and this is another episode of SOCMOM and Friends, and I'm here with Sarah.
Hey everybody.
So, the audio you're hearing right now is a little bit of some of our upgrades, and this is a Ceramic Blink 500 for all those tech-savvy people out there. And it's just a very quick solution to having better audio with using my phone and other more low-tech.
Yeah, it's nice. We have these little lapel mics that clip on, and then the little tiny receivers. I mean, they're just super small. They can clip right to my belt loop, which that's a girl's belt loop, so they're small, not chunky or anything like that. They're pretty nice. I don't know anything about them, but they seem nice so far.
Yeah, they're easy to attach. So once, like for conventions, the next convention I go to do interviews with exhibitors, attendees, and special guests, it's going to be easy because the receiver part for each person, there's two, and there's one that connects to the phone. I can just actually clip that to where the mic is right now, and we can just go. And so it'd be a really quick interview where it's not too inconvenient for anybody that I do interview. So it'd be really cool and really fast to, get that little bit of news or talk about how the convention's going for whoever may be interviewed.
Speaking of conventions, I have been to two events since the last time we recorded. One was a convention in New Jersey called Dreamation. That's one that my boss owns, and he puts on 3 conventions a year, and that's one of them. So I was at Dreamation earlier this month, hosting the New Jersey State Championships for double exposure, which I've talked about several times on the channel, so I'm not going to discuss any further today. After Dreamation wrapped up, I actually stayed over in that area, and I went and worked Toy Fair in New York City. This was my first year at Toy Fair, and it was otherworldly. It was insane. It was a huge trade show, so it's a little bit different than a convention, but it was by far the biggest trade show that I've ever worked. And it was exploding with color and fun and like new technology and all kinds of just insane stuff. If you're not a parent or if you're not adjacent to like children's entertainment as an industry, it's just a bunch of stuff that I haven't even thought of. The last time I played with toys was when I was a kid myself, and that's been quite a while now. I don't have kids. We don't really interact with children very much other than Nick's job, which I don't have anything to do with most of the time. So for me, the evolution of like children's entertainment was really, really striking to have not seen what's going on with toys and children's entertainment items for like 20 or more years. And then all of a sudden to just see like the explosion of technology and advancements that they've made and that kind of stuff was really crazy. And they had everything there from like rideables like bikes and scooters to like swings that you could hang in like the tree in your front yard type thing, and like to dolls and science kits and puzzles and games and just every type of children's entertainment item that you can imagine. They even had some custom wheelchairs, which were kind of cool. They were like these really, really customized wheelchairs to make the wheelchair look like a race car or like something like that. So there was literally like every possible thing you can imagine for children at the show, and it was a unique experience.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was pretty awesome to hear your experience, and it's also trade shows are definitely a different beast from conventions. It's not, you can't buy anything there. You can, but you're buying crates of.
You're typically
product.
placing orders because you are going to sell that product on to someone else. And it's a subtle difference, but it's definitely a big difference. It was, like I said, the first time I've worked Toy Fair. I've already been invited back next year to work with a different publisher than I was working with this time around. But it will be exciting to go back, especially for the extended show. I only worked for one day of Toy Fair, and I went another day just to kind of poke around and see everything and stuff like that, but I only worked one day, and next year I believe I will work the entire event for this publisher that I've agreed to help next year. So I'm really looking forward to that. That was a really neat experience for me. coming up, I have another couple of shows and trade shows and things like that. The first one is Tennessee Game Days, which I'm leaving for just in a couple of days. I'm leaving for Tennessee Game Days. I'm going to fly out to Franklinton, Tennessee, and I'm going to host the Tennessee State Championships at Tennessee Game Days. I went last year to host the Tennessee State Championships last year as well, and it's a really neat show. I like the show a lot. It's one of the ones that I wish that I could participate in a little bit more instead of having to work, because it just seems like it's a really fun experience. And I think I've mentioned that previously on the show as well. Yeah. So I'm going to go to Tennessee Game Days this coming weekend, and then I will also be at the Gamma Trade Show in Reno in probably about a week. Yeah, about a week I'll be at Gamma. So if you're going to be at Tennessee Game Days or at Gamma, I'd love to see you. Come by, check out whatever games I'm demonstrating or whatever tournaments I'm hosting or that kind of thing. I'd love to see you at one of my tables. Even if you just stop by to say hi, that would be great too. I do pin trade at conventions, so if you have time and you'd like to come by and trade pins with me, I would love that. I have a bunch of board game related pins. I also have some Disney pins that I trade. So come on by and maybe we can trade some pins. Maybe I could teach you a game, or maybe we could just play something together. That would be really fun too. So.
Awesome. Now Gamma is more of a board game trade show then.
Yes.
So it's not going to be like toys or anything like that.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be pretty much all tabletop gaming stuff, games, accessories, that kind of thing. And it is a trade show, so again, a little bit slightly different feel to things. And I don't believe it's just open to the general public. You have to have some legitimate reason to be there. You have to be a buyer, or you have to work at a game store, that kind of thing, to be able to go to the trade shows. Honestly, though, don't feel like you're missing out, because it's neat to see everything, but it's definitely different marketing, right? At a convention, I feel like it's to the end consumer. So like there's demonstrations and people are promos and there's cool people to see and awesome games to play. Trade shows, it's more about transactional sales. So it's and selling like in bulk, right? So people will buy like cases of games because they're buying them to turn around and resell them, right? So don't feel like you're missing out on too much. They're neat experiences, but if you're really into the hobby of board gaming, it doesn't really offer much for you.
Yeah, so I'd say, this is more, like conventions are more for people to meet people in the industry, like, say like Rodney or people from the Dice Tower and, because not everyone has the opportunity to go to a game store, and so conventions kind of offer that more of an appeal.
Yeah.
But like when the game store owners and people in the industry that sell to an end consumer in their local area are the ones that go to these kind of trade shows. And some people still from the industry go, but they go more as it's more business.
Yeah.
Than
it's definitely not a casual, laid back sort of experience. It's very like business focused. And while it still is fun and exciting and interesting, it's a different kind of fun and exciting and interesting. So, but that's neat for me. I've never been to Gamma before, so I'm looking forward to getting to go there. I was supposed to go last year, and it ended up that I needed to be somewhere else doing something else at the same time, so I didn't actually get to go last year. So I'm looking forward to getting to go out there and see how it's done out there. And it should be neat. It should be neat. Plus, I'm excited I get to work for R&R Games, which is a company that I've had some experience working for in the past. And I really like the folks that run R&R Games, and I enjoy just kind of hanging out with them. I like working in their booth. They're good people to work for. And we get to eat a ton of good food. Ton of good food. I actually...
spoiled.
I partnered up with them. I met up with them in New York after Toy Fair, and we went out to a couple of restaurants each night. And we went to one restaurant one night and a different restaurant the other. And it was good food. We always eat really, really well when I'm with them. So I'm looking forward to that. They've given me a couple of games to learn before the trade show. So I brought home with me from Toy Fair, Bite Your Tongue. which is a sort of a party game where you make different faces and things like that, trying to get a particular point across. So that should be fun and interesting to learn. They also sent me home with Coralia and the Humboldt's Great Voyage, which are a little bit heavier games, but I'm really looking forward to learning these so that I can teach these at Gamma. So I really like this one. It's very colorful. It's got like a underwater sea theme to it. So I'm looking forward to learning both of these. I think I'm going to enjoy both of these quite a bit. So they sent all this home with me so that I could learn it in time for Gamma. So these are a few games that we've added to our collection over the last few days. We also added a couple of other games. These were ones that we used some of our existing store credit on. So we got Team 3, the pink box. We already have the green box. I really like Team 3. I think it's a fun and silly dexterity game. I usually really don't like dexterity games, but I think that this one is fun and interesting. And I'm glad that we have both the green and pink copies now.
Yep.
We also brought home House of Danger, which is the first game in the Choose Your Own Adventure games series. I don't know if we're going to like this or not. I've heard mixed reviews about it, but I think it seems fun and
something different to try.
Yeah, exactly. I think it'll be sort of a casual experience, but I think it's going to be a fun one. And then this big old monster, we got the Valley of the Kings Premium Edition with some of that store credit. We owned the original Valley of the Kings and both of the standalone expansions, but I've actually never played before. So I hope that it's good because we did spend some of our store credit on the premium edition. But the reason we did that is because this is a deck building game, which I love deck building games. And I've seen the premium edition out on the table and it looks phenomenal. So I think if I like this, I'm going to really like it, hopefully. And I'm really, really pleased with the production of this one. So hopefully those were good choices to spend some of that very, very precious store credit on.
Yeah.
So those are some titles that we've added to our collection. We haven't been playing a lot lately. I have been traveling pretty extensively, and then this weekend we sort of took time to sort of regroup. We restocked our pantry, which meant a trip to the grocery store, which we shop at a wholesale club. So that was an excursion all on its own. And then we also caught up on some movies that we had wanted to see. So we haven't had a ton of time to play since the last time that we recorded. I played The Bears and the Bees, and I also played a card game. See if I wrote it down here. I also played a card game that I was taught at Dreamation called Stickelm. And apologies if I did not pronounce that correctly. It was an interesting experience. It's a trick-taking game where you have a pain suit. So I had, I think, a yellow one the first round. So I didn't want to take any tricks with any yellow cards, because if I did, then those would actually count against my score. And it's pretty simple. It's just numbers. I don't know. I think it was 1 through 18, maybe in like 6 different colors. And the interesting thing about it was that it's, like I said, it's a trick-taking game. The trump suit is any color that is not the one before it. So if I play yellow and you play green, you've trumped what I've played. So you're constantly sort of trumping each other, but because of the pain suits, you want to sort of be careful that you don't necessarily take a trick, because if it has a lot of points of your pain suit, then it'll actually end up costing you points. I thought it was interesting. I thought that I'm glad that I experienced it, but I don't know that it would be ever something that I would want to be like, hey, let's sit down and play Stickelm. Like I said, I thought it was interesting, but no. Yeah. All we were playing, and that was all me. I think you...
Yeah, I've been playing anything just because of it working and then just taking care of everything.
Yeah. So I would love to get in some more Clank Legacy, but it's probably not going to happen for a little while. And then today's topic is actually the top 10 games that we are looking forward to playing that we haven't played yet. We're going to jump into that in just a couple minutes. There was a few other things that we wanted to talk about. One was that I have left my job. I had 2 jobs and I've left one of them. So I remain the tournament director and the executive assistant for Double Exposure, which I love that job. I don't think I'm ever going to leave that job. I mean, things always change, right? But I do really, really enjoy that job. I was also a professional demonstrator and a game night host at a local game store. I've been doing that for about 3 years now at that particular location, and I really, really enjoy it. But the commute was an absolute killer. I call it a friendly local game store, but I was driving about 80 miles one way just to get there. And it's been fun, but 3 years of driving 80 miles one way has definitely worn me out. So it was time to move on. And that's very sad for me. I really did enjoy my time there. But it's time to move on. So my clients and my boss there threw me a wonderful going away party. There's some pictures up on Instagram. Nick's going to throw up a picture for me here of this gorgeous crokinole board that one of my players handcrafted for me. I like crokinole quite a bit, and when we brought this home, I taught Nick how to play, and I think you like it quite a bit as well.
Quite a bit. We've been playing like a lot, and it's a nice, easy game to just pick up and start going. But all the stuff is kind of expensive, especially if you're not blessed with people giving you a custom-made crokinole board.
It was so wonderful. I mean, it was heart. Like, it just touched my heart so much because he put so much work and effort, and the whole community chipped in to pay for the supplies and everything like that. So this really felt like a gift that came from the heart of the entire community. And so it was a very, very touching gift. And I'm so excited to have a crokinole board now, especially because they are pretty pricey, and I don't think it would ever have been something that we would have probably spent our own money on.
It would have been very low on the totem pole. We might have eventually gotten one, but again, like maybe for like a Christmas or a birthday.
Yeah,
gift.
Maybe some kind of big gift type thing. But it's 1,000 times better to have one that was handmade for me and crafted with such obvious care, and it's just really special. So I'm very, very excited to add that to our collection as well. Okay, and then let's see.
Next thing is...
So I'm sort of jumping all over the map here.
It's all good.
Either Nick's going to have to edit this together for us in a more streamlined fashion, or my apologies.
Roll with it.
So like I said, we haven't been playing a ton of games lately, but we did watch 3 movies this weekend. We got caught up on some movies that we'd been wanting to see for a while. We watched Zombieland 2, which I was pretty excited about. Really liked the first one, but it was a pretty forgettable experience, honestly. I didn't particularly care for it. It was fine, but whatever. And then we also watched The Color Out of Space with Nicolas Cage. Phenomenal job on the acting. Most of the production was pretty good. They did a pretty good job sticking to the original story, which was nice. I wasn't really sure if they were going to take too many creative liberties, but they seemed to stick to the original story pretty good. And it was great. It was a little intense. I like scary movies, and it was definitely a scary movie, but it was neat. Really like the Dark Adventure Radio Theater, which is a theater troupe that puts on radio theater productions. And for the most part, they've stuck to the horror genre. I wish they would sort of break out of that a little bit, because like I said, I don't necessarily like that horror type feeling. But they do an excellent job, and they're really fun to listen to. So because of them, I was aware of The Color Out of Space, and I've listened to the radio drama that they did of that. And I think that the movie was really, really good. It sort of captured the mental images that I had created for myself when I was listening to the radio drama pretty well. So that one was fun. And then finally, we also watched Knives Out, which was one of the best movies I've seen in a very long time. It was so clever and twisty and fun. And it was filmed in the sort of film style that I like. It had sort of this sense of humor that I enjoy. And all around it was just like a delight of a little movie to watch. So really liked Knives Out, my favorite movie probably of like the last 2 years.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's what we've been watching. What have y'all been watching? Do you guys like TV, movies? Do you like to read? What's your thing?
Do you just watch Rodney all day long? Leave them in the comments
You know
below.
what? No judgment. I totally get it. All right, so today's topic is the top 10 games. Actually, you should introduce our topic.
So our topic is going to be the top 10 games that we are excited to play, games that we haven't played yet but want to. So
Why don't you start us off?
So yeah, it's going to range from, Kickstarters to games that we own, new to us, and games that are on like BGG's hot lists. And
Some
like
of mine
that.
are kind of older too. Like
Yeah.
it's games that I looked around our game room and I said, you know what? I haven't actually played that yet. It's been on the shelf for a while. But I haven't played it, but I'm actually looking forward to playing it at some point. So some of mine are older, but I'm still looking forward to playing them.
All right. So let's start with number 10. My number 10 is...
Honorable mentions?
If you want to do that after, yeah, we'll do honorable mentions later. I don't really have any honorable
I have
mentions.
3 honorable mentions. And the reason that I have 3 is because 2 of them I've actually played before, but only once. And one of them we're kind of unsure of the production status of it. It might come out, it might not. So I have 3 honorable mentions, but I felt like they all sort of had asterisks by their titles. So we'll leave those to the end, like you said. What was your number 10?
Conan. One of the newest Conans.
Okay.
It's,
I think we have that,
Yeah,
don't we?
it's right behind you.
Oh, yeah, right there.
It's an older game, campaign. I am starting to listen to some of Robert E. Howard's Conan the Barbarian, or Conan the Cimmerian Barbarian. It's a very catchy title. But I find it interesting, and I would like to see. I like campaign games.
And this is like a combat miniatures game?
Combat miniature campaign game, and it's just interested me, and one of the games I look forward to play.
So I don't know anything about the Conan universe. Does he fight like
it's a sword and sorcery kind of book. So the book is sword and sorcery. So this is kind of like the same, saving characters and
the damsels in distress?
Yes. And then taking care of like the evil sorcerers or the evil armies or fighting beasts.
All right. Interesting.
I just find it really interesting. We got at a deal on a convention one day. So
yeah, we got that last year, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just like, hey, why not?
All right. My number 10 is an expansion, and I actually have several expansions on my list. This one is the Fortunes expansion, or Fortune expansion, for Tiny Towns. To be honest with you, I'm pretty worn out on Tiny Towns, and I haven't explored half of what's in the box. But I've set up the basic game so frequently and taught it to new players so often that I'm kind of worn out on it. And even though there's a lot more to explore in the box, I'm looking forward to the expansion because it's going to add even more new things. So that is my number 10, the Fortune expansion, or Fortunes? I'm not sure which one it is, for Tiny Towns.
Awesome. So, number 9. So my number 9 is actually the Island of El Dorado. It's an older game, but it's something there's been a couple El Dorado games with the Quest of El Dorado. It was kind of like a racing game. Excuse me. It's kind of racing games. It was fun. But then when I saw the miniatures, the little minis inside it.
It's definitely a very eye-catching game.
Was just
it's very eye-catching.
Yeah, even the box art with it lacking, it just had like gold lettering. Like, ooh, what's?
Yeah, it's very subtle.
Yeah.
But it's definitely attention grabbing, I think, which is kind of contradictory in nature, those two things. But I think somehow that game pulls it off.
Yeah. So that's my number 9.
Nice. Okay, my number 9 is The Rise of Queensdale, which is an older legacy game. But we are wrapping up our Clank Legacy. We've got a few games left in our Clank Legacy, and I love Legacy games. So I think Rise of Queensdale is the next one that we are sort of planning on playing. We have a couple of other ones that we have tucked away that we might end up playing before Queensdale, but I think that's going to be the one that we end up playing next. And I'm looking forward to that. I've heard that it's okay. I think it's better than some other Legacy games we played. I don't know if it's quite as good as Clank Legacy. But I am looking forward to Rise of Queensdale.
Yeah, me too.
My number 9.
Oh yeah. So, number 8. My number 8 is Too Many Bones. And I'm really excited about that because Shut Up and Sit Down did a review.
Bunch of Dice game.
Bunch of Dice,
right? Okay.
yeah.
All right.
A review of that game, and it just seemed really interesting, and they piqued my interest so much that I'm looking forward to when I have the opportunity, whether it's we get a copy or we find a copy at a convention that someone is willing to teach other players. And yeah, whichever comes first, I'm excited to get to play that game.
I think I've only ever heard good things about that game.
Yeah.
So
Shut Up and Down, when they say, when they take the time to do a review on a game, it's, thorough, where it's the good, the bad, and the silly. And, but yeah.
Those guys silly?
No.
Okay. My number 8.
Yep.
My number 8 is Crusaders, Thy Will Be Done. I honestly am not really sure I'm going to like this one, but I'm definitely interested in trying it. And I believe an expansion was announced like sometime within the last month or so, I guess. And I haven't even tried the base game yet. So I definitely want to get that to the table and give that a try. Like I said, don't know a ton about it. I'm not sure if I'm going to like it or not, but I would like to try it and see.
Yeah, I think Kevin from Tantrum House had some good things to say about it. He went over the game like semi-extensively, and so it's something it interested me in my top 10 list.
All right, there you go. So that was my number 8, Crusaders, Thy Will Be Done.
All right, let's go on. Number 7. So my number 7 is Underwater Cities. This was kind of like...
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
There's an expansion for that coming out too soon.
Yeah. That was something I got to see at Dice Tower East last year, so in 2019. And I got to see it laid out, played, learned the rules, but then I had to go I was working that convention, so I wasn't able to actually get started with it. But I was able to see the setup and see, some of the rules being taught. And so it was something that really interested me. I think it kind of reminded me of Terraforming Mars, but this seemed a little more interesting to me. Nothing against Terraforming Mars, Steven, but...
I feel the same way.
Yeah.
I've been attracted to Underwater Cities like pretty much since it came out, and we haven't had a chance to play it yet. But I was talking to somebody at a convention, at Dreamation actually, and I had been kind of avoiding Underwater Cities for a little bit because people had said that it was really, really crunchy. And I was like, okay, well, I usually don't feel like I have that amount of time and energy and like mental capacity to devote to a game when I'm at a show. And I feel like that would be like the ideal time for me to actually get it to the table and learn how to play and stuff like that.
Crunchy meaning, just a big, intense kind of brain burner where it takes a long time to play, and it also, you have to use a lot of your, mental energy.
Faculties.
Yeah, mental faculties, just to be like, okay, I've learned the rules, now I want to try to do this as the best I can. It's like, and then after you're done, you're like, okay, can we play like just a game,
like a card game or something?
Where I'm chucking dice.
Yeah. So I had thought that it was really, really chunky or crunchy. Thank you. I thought that it was really, really crunchy. But I spoke with someone at Dreamation about it, and they actually said that they felt that it was just a little bit lighter than Terra. Did okay with Terraforming Mars. So I feel like, okay, fine, throw it at me. They did say that there's a lot of iconography to learn, which is fine. But it is one that I've been interested in for a while. I should have put that one on my list.
That's why we have a 10-10 with both of us, so we get like a kind of cheap with the top 20. So what was your number 7?
My number 7 is another expansion for another AEG title, and that is the Nobility expansion for War Chest. I like War Chest. It's a bag building area control game, which is pretty simple as far as like what you can do in the game. You can either like play a chip to the board, or you can play chips face down or face up to influence the board, or to like build your bag a little bit more, or that kind of thing. So it's pretty simple in like what you can actually do, but the strategies run pretty deep. And I've enjoyed it pretty extensively. Well, that's a little misleading. I've enjoyed it every time that I've played it. I've enjoyed it very much, but I haven't played it a ton. So I still feel like there's a lot in the base game that I have yet to discover, but I'm also looking forward to seeing what's new in the Nobility expansion as well. So that's my number 7, War Chest Nobility.
Nice. All right, number 6. So my number 6 is Wasteland Express. I've seen you teach it.
Okay, yeah.
I've seen it played. I've seen
So the
pictures.
full title, I think, is actually Wasteland Express Delivery Service.
Yes. It just seemed really interesting, and I've saw pictures of you teaching it. I've seen pictures on BGG, and this is a title I really want to get to the table.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think that I like it a lot. It's been a while since I've played or taught. Gameplay. So yeah, that one's neat.
Nice.
Good game.
So what's your number 6?
My number 6 is The House of Danger. Like I said earlier in the show, I think it's going to be kind of light. I think it's going to be a fairly casual experience. But that one came out and I was like mildly interested in it, and then it sort of, fell out of the back of my head, and I was like, whatever. And I sort of moved along. And then for whatever reason, it like bit me again. Earlier this year, or maybe towards the end of last year, I was like, I really do want to try that game. So that's what we ended up spending some of our store credit on, and I'm looking forward to that one.
It's not like hundreds of thousands of games come out a year. It's not like, Eschen Spiel had like some crazy number of like 4,000 games
Lord.
just come out at one time. It's like, jeez.
So that is my number 6, the Choose Your Own Adventure House of Danger game.
Nice. All right, so let's move on to number 5. So my 5 is Thunderstorm Quest.
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons. I think it's if I'm not wrong, it's a deck builder, and it's a huge, going this just massive game, and just going through all the levels, beating monsters, and building up your deck as you're going through, which is something. And I've seen the Secret Cabal talk about it and how they really enjoyed it, and so again, someone I listen to sometimes, and
we're just dropping all those names.
Dropping all the names, go check them out. Yeah, it's just something that I've heard about, seen, and have been heavily interested in trying. And we actually own that, but have not played it yet.
Yes. Nice. All right.
So what was yours?
My number 5 is Steampunk Rally and Steampunk Rally Fusion, which either has just recently come out or will come out this year. I'm not exactly sure which. And honestly, because Fusion is coming out or has just come out, it interested me in Steampunk Rally. It's a game that we have on our shelf and have had on our shelf for a while. We even punched it all, and I read through at least a portion of the rule book, but we never actually sat down and played it. I really like the artwork. I think it's fun and sort of cheeky. And it seems like it could be a really fun game. I've heard good things about it. So when Fusion was announced, it sort of piqued my interest again in the base game. I thought, we haven't actually played that. We should get that to the table. So that's my number 5, Steampunk Rally / Steampunk Rally Fusion, which is I believe, a standalone expansion. So
awesome. Yeah. All right, number 4. So my number 4 is Heroes of Air, Land, and Sea.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah. So it was kind of funny. The first time I heard about the game is when, I think Tom was like, why can't this company, I think Gamelin?
Yes,
Gamelin Games, they make the Tiny Epic series. He's like, I just want a big game. And it's like, all right, they served him up with the Heroes of Air, Land,
I feel
and
like they
Sea.
were like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Boom! And it was just a massive game, and I saw it at Gen Con last year, and it was like on a big table, and I was just like, oh my goodness. It might have had expansions. I'm not sure if expansions have
There's
come
a
out.
ton of additional content for it. We only own the base game,
It's just
but there's
insane,
a
massive.
bunch of content for the game. So.
But yeah, that's my number 4 pick.
Good choice. All right, my number 4 is Valley of the Kings Premium. Like I said at the beginning of the show, it's a deck builder. This is the premium edition, so I'm kind of a sucker for like nice games, games that were produced well and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to trying this one.
Nice. Awesome. All right, so number 3. So my number 3 is, now I'm going to butcher this name hard, Sekigari, the Unification of Japan. Now this is a GMT game where they normally do just war games, and I'm not saying mostly, but most of their games are, war games, and this one is specifically telling a story of a war that unified Japan. And I'm not sure how historically accurate it is, but this is all just based on one battle. And that actually goes over 7 weeks. Now, not the gameplay in 7 weeks, but the battle. And so one player can play on one side and the other play on the other, and it's just really interesting. All the GMT titles that, aren't really covered too much just because of, it's a kind of a small niche of the hobby where
I'd say it's sort of in the
wargaming.
crossover area between like board games and war games. It doesn't quite fit into either one of those categories, but it's got its own little thing going on in the middle.
But they're really cool, and the stickers really nice, and the pieces were really interesting. And so that's something we picked up on our way back from a convention. And it was actually last year, and it was actually when we picked it up at a word of mouth game store, where you could only get to the game store if someone invited you or told you about it. And but when we were coming back, we went ahead and actually called and
we reached out to the owners and we said, hey, we're in town for this convention, and we heard about your store. Could we come by and see it? And we set up an appointment, and then we actually got to go in to the store with the owner, and it was a neat experience. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
If you'd like to see pictures from that experience or read more about it, you can check out Settler of Catan, mayorofmachikoro.com, and search for Game Store Quest. And it is one of my Game Store Quest articles. Awesome. I don't remember the exact title of that one, but it's definitely worth checking out if you're at all interested in that, because it was a neat experience.
Awesome. Well, that was my number 3.
My number 3 is Coralia. It's one of the games I have to learn for Gamma, but I'm looking forward to it. Like I said earlier, it's colorful, it's bright, it's got an underwater theme to it, so I always like that. It's got these pretty chunky, translucent, multicolored die, and I'm just looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a sort of a light, midweight, light-ish family game. But I think it's going to be one that's probably going to be pretty enjoyable as a casual experience. So I'm looking forward to learning that one before I go to Gamma.
Nice. All right. So number 2. My number 2 is Tapestry. I heard a lot of hubbub about Tapestry, basically how the game, the pieces, everything, is it balanced, is it unbalanced? It just has really piqued my interest, and I haven't had the desire to go out and just grab it. It is kind of more of an expensive game, and there were others that just wanted to play before that, but it's recently just become more higher my priority to if we acquire it or we go ahead and play it for someone else's copy at a convention or a friend. That's just something I'm looking forward to do, and a game I'm looking forward to play.
I have played this one before. I played it at BGG in the fall of 2019. A friend of mine was at the show, and he taught us how to play Tapestry, and we played through a game. We did have to rush the end a little bit because it was in the hot games room there, and they closed, I think, at midnight or something like that. So we of the room was coming up pretty soon, so we did sort of rush through like the last, I don't know, 20 minutes or so of the game. But I don't think things would have been much different even if we'd sat there and like contemplated things for longer. I think the winner had pretty solidly had the win in hand even before, even when we started to sort of pick up the pace so that we could finish. That had not been the case, I don't know that I would have enjoyed the experience very much. I didn't particularly care for the game, and I felt like for the hours of time, I think we played for like 2 hours, for the hours of time that we'd been sitting there playing that game, we could have had like 2 or 3 other experiences which would have been more fun or rewarding. So I personally don't care to ever play Tapestry again, I don't think. By contrast, at that same show we played The Crew from Cosmos, and that's like a 20-minute game. And we flippin' loved it. We sat there for hours. I mean, like 3 or 4 hours and played The Crew just round after round after round because we were just having such a good time. So I'd rather do something like that than play Tapestry again. But we are different people with different tastes, so he might enjoy it.
Different strokes for different folks.
Exactly.
So what was your number 2?
My number 2 is one that we've kickstarted and should be delivered sometime in the next couple of months, hopefully a little sooner than that, but I don't remember what the last update said, and that is Calico. This one did really, really well on Kickstarter. I think part of the reason was because the team behind it, well, cats, obviously. The team behind it was really good at providing good communication, and it was also a pretty cheap price point. The beginning pledge, I think, was $29, and they didn't do I'm not exactly sure what the terminology is, but the stretch goals were all included. So $29, and you got everything that they unlocked throughout the whole campaign.
That's always nice.
Yeah, and they did really, really well. So they just kept either adding things or increasing the quality of the stuff that was going to be included. So by the time they met their goals, or by the time the campaign wrapped up, they had made enough money to really increase the overall quality of the game components, as well as adding more and more stuff. So I think for $29, we're going to get a really, really hefty package of nice stuff included in the game. And I'm looking forward to the gameplay itself. I think it's going to be a fairly light game, but puzzly and thinky. And I think it's going to be well produced, and I'm just looking forward to that one. We don't back a ton of Kickstarters, so when we do, I feel like we really are attracted to the project or believe in the project for some reason or another. And I feel like that just the fact that we even kickstarted it is like a vote of confidence for that particular product or company. So yeah, that's my number 2, Calico.
Yeah. And I do enjoy that are just, there are Kickstarters with so much complexity in there where you can customize in so many ways. And then you have Calico and even Predaporter from Portal Games that was just like, this is what you get. You get it, and however far the Kickstarter goes and breaking those stretch goals, those will be included, which is really nice because, sometimes you're like, oh, well, I don't want to spend all this money, or I don't want to miss out.
Yeah.
The fear of missing out is strong in the board game industry. So it's really nice when it can be condensed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This brings up a point. Did we mention the Kickstarter that we were thinking about backing at the beginning of the show?
We haven't. So once we get after our number 1, we can go ahead and hit that real quick.
And that's next.
So, number 1. My number 1 is one that we backed. Necromolds, monster battles, and this is like a 70s like commercial of just
I think it feels like a
special
90s
effects.
throwback.
90s, sorry,
Yeah,
90s.
it feels like a 90s throwback to me.
Yeah, definitely. And it was just the 90s throwback commercial was just amazing. It was a kind of, it's a war game, but at the same time, you create creatures through these necromold books. And what you're doing is like putting putty into the book, you smash it together, and then open it, and then you create this little creature.
And then you
that
use
has
it
stats.
on the board.
Yeah, and you have little rulers and everything. And then once you destroy a creature, you have these mold rings that you go ahead and you smash down on the creature, and it's just so awesome. I can't wait for it. It's coming out, I believe, June of 2020 is when it's going to start shipping, and I'm just stupid excited because I can't wait to do a video on it, and it's going to just be awesome. So what is your number one?
My number one, and I don't even remember the name, I think it's called Nemesis, but my number one is the new expansion for Mystic Vale. Mystic Vale is one of my top 10 favorite games ever, and I just need all of the content for it. So I'm excited about the new Mystic Vale expansion. I do want to figure out how to most efficiently and effectively organize all of my Mystic Vale stuff so that I can more easily and more quickly get it to the table. Because I do have literally everything that's ever come out for the game. And you can just sort of toss it all in and play however you want. But the game really shines, I think, when you mix and match particular sets of cards and things like that. And right now there's no way for you to easily identify just by looking at the card what set that it came from. So what I would like to do is come up with some kind of permanent solution. It will take a very long time on the front end, but organize everything by its expansion, and then find a way to mark it permanently so that when you are just flipping through the cards, you can really easily pull out exactly what you're looking for. Excuse me. So I would like to do that before the next expansion comes out, because every time another expansion comes out, I just throw more and more and more into the box, which means it's going to be harder and harder and harder to get it reorganized and labeled. But part of the reason that I'm holding back on that is because I haven't figured out a way that I'm super thrilled with about how to mark the things permanently. I've thought about using a permanent marker. I've thought about using some kind of sticker. I've even thought the cards are made out of this sort of PVC plasticky type material. I've even thought about getting a leather press, a hot leather press type thing, and pressing the cards with some kind of, but I don't really want to damage them. So part of the reason that I'm holding back from reorganizing everything in the box is just because I'm not really sure how to mark things and that kind of stuff. But so if you have any ideas, or if you've seen anything really cool, throw that in the comments. I would love to know about that. So I do want to sort of get that in hand before we add even more Mystic Vale content to it, especially because at this point it is becoming prohibitive to actually playing the game. For me, I know it doesn't need to be, but for me, that's a problem at this point. So I would like to sort of get that in hand before I continue to add more content to the game, but I am very much looking forward to new content coming out for it, especially because every expansion that's come out has drastically shifted the focus of the game, the strategy you can employ, the feelings that are invoked during the game. So every expansion has just offered this massive buffet of newness and freshness to the game. So I'm just looking forward to more of that.
And also those Geek Up bits, right?
Yeah, so we've mentioned it before on the show, but they have recently released Geek Up bits for the black victory point tokens. That is the only thing I do not own right now for the game, but it is on the list of things that we would buy. We will probably pick that up sometime in the future.
Oh, yeah. So that was our top 10 of games we're looking forward to play in the future. And now we're actually going to go ahead to talk about a Kickstarter we're considering backing.
Yeah. So we have Dragoon from Waste Games, we have the base game and we have the Barbarian expansion. We have the gold edition. So if you're familiar with the game, it came out in like plastic pieces, and then they also came out with a gold edition. And it is all of the plastic pieces have been upgraded to metal components. And some of them are even like real 24 karat gold pieces, which is a little extreme, I know. But it has incredible table presence. It's a really fun 2-player game. It's more than 2. But we prefer it at 2 because it's a really fun, easy back and forth between 2 players. And so we really enjoyed it too. We haven't done much at all with the Barbarian expansion, which is we're just considering and not 100% sure if we're actually going to back the new expansion.
Yeah, we have some time. I think it's like 10 or more days that it still has on Kickstarter.
I've got a little reminder set up to remind me when the campaign ends, so that we can get in there if we decide that we want to do that. This is one of those things that's a little difficult for me because this is very much fear of missing out for me. It's straight FOMO that's driving this, because I would like to think, well, we have a whole expansion's worth of content we haven't even, really delved into yet. There's enough here to where I don't feel like we need more content for the game just yet. But it's very, very difficult to get a hold of this game, especially the metal components. And I would want metal since our previous 2, the base game and the previous expansion we bought have all been in the metal sets. I would want to continue getting the metal sets. So it can be really hard to find those if you don't do the Kickstarters. So I feel like we like the game. We know that we like the base game at least. We know that the production quality is really good. And I would like to get the expansion just so that we have it. But I also think that that's maybe a little silly. If we already have content that we haven't even explored yet, maybe we should delve into that before we go out and get more content for it. Especially because it is a little pricey.
Yeah.
I think we're
looking at $75.
Yeah, we were looking at a $75 pledge. And that's a little excessive. That has more in it than we need. Air quotes, right? We don't need any of it, but it has more in there than we need, but it had everything that I wanted to get if we were going to get any of it. So I kind of felt like it's like an all or nothing thing. Either we don't pledge and we just kind of do without, or we pledge at $75 and we get all this stuff that comes at the $75 level. So I'm kind of feeling a little torn, but we will make a decision before the campaign ends, and we'll let you know what happened the next time we record an episode.
Yeah, definitely. So did you agree with our lists? What kind of lists do you have for top 10 games that you can't wait to play in the future, whether they're old, new, or haven't even come out yet, but you've gotten to play maybe, say, at a convention? All right.
Now I can do my honorable mentions?
Yes.
Okay. So now I'll do my honorable mentions. And I just thought of another one, actually. So I've mentioned how many times I on the show I've mentioned how, good Lord. So I've mentioned several times on the show how much I enjoyed playing The Crew. Nick has never played. So I'm really looking forward to getting to play The Crew with him because I've enjoyed it so much and I want to share that experience with him. Hopefully he'll like it too. It's kind of a weird game for me because it's trick-taking, it's limited communication, and it's cooperation are 3 of like the main mechanics. Typically, I don't really care much for any of those as sort of standalone mechanics, but somehow this blends them all together into a really, really fun experience. So I'm really looking forward to sharing that with Nick. So that is my just now added honorable mention. My other honorable mentions are Letter Jam, which is another game I've only played it once, but I really liked it, and I would like for him to get to experience it. I'm not sure if I'll like it as much the next time. I'm not sure if you'll like it at all, but I did enjoy it a lot the first time around, and I want him to experience it and see how he feels about it. And then my third honorable mention is Fleet, the dice game. So we've played Fleet exactly once. I really liked it. I usually don't particularly care for dice versions of things. And that one had like a roll and write aspect to it as well. And well, that's not my favorite, but I really did like Fleet, the dice game. There's already at least one expansion out for it, I think. And I think there's another one coming So I would like to try this one again, and just sort of make sure that I had as much fun with it as I think that I did, and make sure that that wasn't some sort of an anomaly. And then maybe we'll get into some of the expansion content and stuff like that as well. So that was my third honorable mention. And then my last honorable mention is a potential Seven Wonders Duel expansion. So Bruno Cathala has begun to design a second expansion for Seven Wonders Duel, which is one of my favorite 2-player games ever. And they're still in the development phase of the game, and they've kind of Repost, which is the publisher for Seven Wonders Duel. They've kind of gone back and forth and been like, we might not publish it, who knows, we're not really sure what's going on. We're sorting things out. And then Cathala has said that he is working on it, but it's not necessarily that he has an agreement that it'll be published. He's just kind of working on it on the side. So I felt like there's a chance that it might not actually happen. So that's why it's an honorable mention and not one of my main ones. I'm really, really, really excited about it if it does happen, because like I said, Seven Wonders Duel is one of my favorite ever 2-player games. I didn't really care for the Pantheon expansion all that much. And I feel like it itself lends itself to expandability really, really well. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they come up with for it if they do put something out. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yep. All right.
Those are my honorable mentions.
Well, that's it. That's everything we have for today's episode of SOCMOM and Friends. Hope you've all enjoyed, and we'll see you next time. Bye.